I, Anna Marie Knorr,
do affirm
do affirm
that I will support and defend the Constitution of the United States
that I will support and defend the Constitution of the United States
and the Constitution and the laws of the state of Arizona,
and the Constitution and the laws of the state of Arizona,
that I will bear true faith and allegiance to the same
that I will bear true faith and allegiance to the same
and defend them against all enemies,
and defend them against all enemies,
foreign and domestic,
foreign and domestic,
and that I will faithfully and impartially
and that I will faithfully and impartially
discharge the duties of governing member
discharge the duties of governing member
of the Maricopa Unified School Board number 20
of the Maricopa Unified School Board number 20
to the best of my ability,
to the best of my ability,
so I do affirm.
so I do affirm.
Here.
Present. Nice, and welcome, Anna Marie. We're excited to have a full board, so it's fabulous. We do have Councilwoman Gussie is going to lead us in our Pledge of Allegiance, and when we're done saying the pledge, if we would please join us in observing a moment of silence to remember those that were part of the tragedy of 9/11. So.
To the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Okay, that brings us to item D, adoption of the agenda.
Pull the meeting minutes from the consent agenda,
Okay.
please.
Okay. Is that it?
Yes. And I'll make
So-
a motion that we adopt the agenda with putting the meeting minutes approval in as an action item.
Okay, so that is 6C, right? Okay. Okay, we have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. The agenda is approved with 6C taken out of consent. Okay. That brings us to our call to the public. I don't see any speaker cards. Do you have a speaker? Oh. Okay. Hurry, write fast. Hurry. All right. Remember, call to the public is keep your comments appropriate. Board members cannot respond. We can direct staff to look into the matter. We also ask that you keep your comments to 3 minutes or less and fill out a speaker card and run it up here, and we'll go with it. Go ahead, Councilwoman Gussie. We'll give you a bye this
Okay,
time.
thank you. I just wanted to say that this morning I attended the 9/11 ceremony that was held at Santa Rosa, and I have to commend the school district, the board. These kids were the best behaved kids I've seen in a long time. And these kids were they were so passionate about celebrating this event this morning. And I just wanted to commend the district and commend the teachers for such a great job that they're doing. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, that brings us to Casey Swafeld. Did I say that right?
Yeah, she's with me too. We both have speech.
All right, Sydney. All right, go ahead. Just give us your name in the microphone.
Hello, I'm Casey Swaffield, and I wrote the speech in memory of Tommy Fitzgerald. It is sad to think one day you go to a friend's house and the next you never see him again. There's a lot to be said about Tommy. He was like a brother to me. He had no enemies. He cared about what people felt. He had an impact on our community. He went to Pima Butte. He holds the record for the mile run race nobody has been able to break. Tommy and his brother Kenny won second place for the talent competition downtown. I know this because the night before, I was at their house watching them practice, and the day they took second place, I was in the front row cheering them on. They decided to sing the song Never Say Never because their grandmother told them to never give up and live life to the fullest. Now Tommy is with his grandma, protected, and watching over us. He played baseball almost his whole life. He sang the national anthem for his baseball team. For those of you who didn't know what happened, he was playing baseball and was running to a base. He cut his leg, then he went to the doctors for medication. Then he claimed that his lungs were hurting. He went to the hospital and was told that he had a staph infection. He was in a coma for a few weeks with no brain activity and passed away on August 5th, the same day we went into 6th grade. Even though he will never be able to live a nice long life, he will always be in our memories.
I personally never knew Tommy, but my dad coached his baseball team and my brother played alongside him. Casey told me how close she was to him and about how much he did for his school, the community, and the people around him. So when I heard about the conflict about a baseball field at Pecana Park being named after him, I thought he really deserved it. Some people disagree, though. So we had an idea to start a petition to get people to sign it to see what they thought. And so far, we actually have 64 signatures. And we're thinking that if we can't get the baseball field to be named after him, that we can do something at our school instead. Like the principal said that they were going to do some bricks on the side of the school for kids to get their names on, and we can put a bench beside it to, sorry, I totally lost my train of thought. So that we could have that bench in his memory. That's all.
We were wondering if there's any people right here right now who would like to sign the petition right now, if you want to.
You can probably take it out into the lobby, and they can sign it out there. So, but that's,
Thank you for listening.
thank you, ladies.
Congratulations again. Paul Jepson, Maricopa City staff. I just wanted to share a couple dates that are coming up. As everybody knows, we're moving out of the trailer after 8 years, and we're very excited. We have new digs over on White and Parker, just south of Bolin, or no, north of Bolin. I'll find it. I know I will. I'm pretty good at that. Tomorrow is our last day at the trailers in Old Town Maricopa. We'll be closing down at 3 at least. We're all packing our computers up at 3 o'clock tomorrow. So that'll be the last in this location. On the 16th, we'll be closed as we set up in the new City Hall. That'll be Monday. The 17th, we'll be open for business finally at the new City Hall. But we still will have our board meeting here. And again, for the many years that we've met here, we totally appreciate your graciousness in allowing us to use your wonderful facilities. We're going to miss them. We really will. We have some nice stuff, but still, this is home to us for now. And so the last meeting we'll have here will be September 17th. September 19th is what we're calling an open house. From noon to 8 on September 19th, it's a Thursday, City Hall will be open for tours, and anybody from the public can come wander through the building, take a look at the spaces, get a quick tour, have some cookies and milk and things like that. It's not a ribbon cutting. There's no formal event. It's just an open house. The formal event will be October 15th. And that'll be the dedication of the council chambers. It's not a council meeting. It's a celebration of the new facilities, limited space. There'll be invites going out to the board and key staff members, and those are going to go out very soon. And that will be the actual celebration. And then the last thing, November 7th, is going to be the mayor will do his State of the City speech out of the new council chambers. But there was confusion. The September 19th is just an open house, nothing formal. The formal event will be October 15th. Mark your calendars. So thank you very much.
Okay, seeing that we have finished our call to the public, we'll close that section and we'll go on to item 3, Superintendent's Report. Dr. Chestnut.
She told me she was coming straight from work, so that may have something to do with the fact that she's running late. So if she arrives while I'm still talking, I will turn the program back over to her. I want to welcome our new governing board member, Anna Marie Knorr. Great to have you with us, and it's great to have 5 board members again. So we're looking forward to working with you, and thanks for joining us. I want to give you an update, as I normally do each meeting, some good things to report on our partnerships with Ak-Chin. Number 1 is our Memorandum of Agreement. Number 1, it's really about program coordination. That was already approved, I think, back in July. And then if you recall, that agreement said we would come up with an annual plan. And it took us a while to get that done. It is on the agenda tonight. So I know we've talked about this so much, I put it on as a late addition, and I thought that would be okay. You're very familiar with what's in the Memorandum of Agreement, and this really just gives some more detail and really, for the first time, puts down on paper what we're trying to accomplish in this partnership, and I think it's going to be very helpful. So I'm really happy that we have that on the agenda for approval tonight. It was approved by the Tribal Council last night, I believe, or yesterday, and so this is the final step. MOA number 2 is the one involving the $2.6 million grant that will be spread over 2 years. And we are working on that. Just talked to our attorney today, who continues to work with the Ak-Chin attorney. We're making progress. We're in the process of providing more detail, which is pretty common on a grant, and hopefully we'll be bringing that to you for approval in the very near future. And then number 3, I don't think I gave you the latest on this. We talked to the Ak-Chin Education Office about having tutoring for Ak-Chin students at our facilities after school. And working that through, it kind of came down to the fact that we just are pretty short on space, really, for after school. Or it's not space, because it's logistics is what it is. And so anyway, that tutoring program began, I believe, about a week ago at Ak-Chin facilities for students in grades K through 8. And so that's a great opportunity for those students to take advantage of that. And so we are at this time not offering that on our campus, but it's good to know that that has started. Also wanted to mention that we had our principal meeting yesterday, our regular weekly principal meeting, and we had a presentation by Expect More Arizona, and they focus on having kids ready for school and ready to graduate and ready for the workforce. And you'll recall that they came and presented at our July 10th governing board meeting, and they have some good resources, and we're in the process of deciding which ones to take advantage of, and a couple of the schools have already signed up for some presentations, so that's a really good group that has some really excellent materials that we can share with our parents and students. Also wanted to mention that yesterday, Tori Anderson, myself, and Mr. Beckett attended the Maricopa Economic Development Alliance board meeting, and as you know, they are working on a community survey. Maricopa Education Foundation will actually be the fiscal agent, but they are putting together a perception survey for us about Maricopa Unified School District. We think it'll end up being great baseline information and give us kind of a starting point, and so we can say, how can we improve? And then we can survey again in a couple years and measure, are we making improvement? And we think that the survey will also help us find out some reasons possibly why parents choose to send their students to other districts. And that will be useful information as well. So looking forward to that. Hope to be bringing you more information about that soon as far as the details and eventually the findings from that survey. So it's going to be a really good project. Wanted to give you some pictures of the Maricopa High School cafeteria shade structure project. This is a very cool project. Mr. Roush has done a great job of coordinating this with our architect and our contractors, and just to make it even more interesting, we thought we would start it right about the time school started and work on it pretty much every day, all the time. But it's worked amazingly well. You can't see it too well in this picture, but it's all fenced off during the day. I think they maybe move the fences on the weekend when they're working, but they've been working a lot on this, and they're getting close to being done. So there's a couple parts to it. You're looking at the end of the cafeteria, and so that porch was extended. And I was up there today. They've come a long way since these pictures were taken, and eventually that end of the cafeteria will be opened up. They'll put garage-type doors on the end there in those openings, which are currently just cement block, but that way on nice days, they'll be able to open it up. It'll just make the whole place more accessible, but it's going to just be a great addition even when it's hot, and we have to keep those doors shut. So that'll be a nice addition. You can see that they're extending the roof and the shade structure over that part. There's a patio currently in the dark area. This increases the size of the patio. It's all corrugated steel on the top of that structure now, so they're making progress. And then there's a lot more to it. The biggest part is this. There's a giant slab where the largest seating area will be. And it really was intentionally designed to be kind of a mini amphitheater. The steps aren't very high, but still, it will function as an amphitheater. And the steel is now up. It was laying on the ground when this picture was taken, and that is what it looks like, but this picture does not do it justice. That structure is huge, and it takes up about at least a third of the courtyard, if not more. At least that's what it feels like. So it's going to be a wonderful way. It's going to get a lot of use, obviously, during the lunch periods, so we can seat students outside. But I think it'll get a lot more use than that. It'll be a natural place for concerts and presentations and those kinds of things. And Principal Celaya even predicts we'll have a wedding there someday. I'm not sure if that's true, but it's going to be a nice enough spot where somebody might think of that. Also want to bring you up, just to remind you about our academic focus timeline that we're working on. As you know, we have charter documents in place for 6 of our schools, and we've asked all 9 schools to go through a process of identifying their academic focus. That's the timeline, and the first be a series of 4 meetings minimum, and they will start in September and they'll end in December. That's the minimum. Schools could decide to have 1 or 2 extra meetings, but that's the process, and Maricopa Wells already had their first meeting. Meeting number 1 was Monday night, and they have finished meeting number 1. So we're all working off the same PowerPoint, the same template as far as information that we're presenting. And it's going to be a good project, and it's going to lead to some great discussions. And there's really 2 things that parents and staff at each school have to decide. And the first thing is, what do you recommend as an academic focus for our school beginning in 2014-15? So this year, our program isn't changing, but that academic focus will be in place for next year. So it'll take all 4 meetings to really figure that out, because it has to fit in with budget. It has to be vetted well, and it has to have the buy-in of the stakeholders in that school. So it's going to be an interesting process at each school. Each of the middle schools are inviting parents in grades 4, 5, and 6, because they're future customers, obviously, and we'll want them to participate in that. When Principal Celaya has her meeting at the high school, she'll invite all parents in grades 7 and 8, because they're going to be future customers. So we're trying to invite a lot of people, get a lot of input, and it's going to be an interesting process. We'll be keeping you up to date on this. The other question that they need to ask as part of this series of meetings is, how do we want parents and guardians to be involved at our school beginning in 2014-15? In the charter documents, it says, beginning in 14-15, parents will be required to sign an agreement outlining their commitment to specific roles they will play in the education of their children and the operation of the school. And defining that will be the focus of meeting 2, and then 2, 3, and 4, we'll get that figured out. So required is kind of a scary word, but I think it's a good word, and we know that parental involvement is one of the, research shows, is one of the main keys to students performing well academically. And so I think each school will probably do that a little bit different, and that'll be an interesting discussion, I think, to have at each site, but I think a really good one. I want to talk about the budget that's going to be available. The academic focus additional assistant budget funds are to be allocated for curriculum materials, equipment, supplies, field trips, professional development, that kind of stuff, supplies and materials. Funds cannot be used to hire additional staff, and that's going to continue to be a district responsibility. We've referred to this structure we're creating is kind of a charter hybrid. We're still going to operate as a school district. We're still going to make some decisions on a district basis. Many of them, most of them, like we currently do, but at the same time, it'll be slightly different in that each school will have their academic focus. And then the final thought there is additional assistance budget amounts for each school will be based on a per student allocation, so it will look like this, we think. Mr. Roush has been doing a good job of crunching the numbers. We've been consulting other public charter school districts, and we plan to allocate $900,000 next year from the increased revenue we receive for our charter schools for the purpose of supporting the academic focus at each school. So that's the bottom right-hand number you can see there, based on enrollment of about 5,946. So at $151 per student, as you might expect, the largest school gets the most amount of money, all right? So that's the high school, but it makes sense. They've got the most kids, and they've, got the most responsibility as far as number of students. So it's strictly on a per pupil basis. And I tell you, it's a whole lot more money than they're used to having. I believe that the Maricopa High School supply and material budget is $40,000, I believe. So this is a huge sum of money to them to do some of the things that they want to do, whether that's more advanced placement courses and the training for staff that goes along with it or what. I don't know where they're going to end up, but that's going to be part of the excitement is to see this discussion and then how does the budget fit in there.
So, Dr. Sense, our plan then to take from M&O, the equivalent amount that the charters are going to get for the non-charters?
This is a good question. As we've researched this, this is an example of us being a hybrid. We are able to use those funds much like an M&O allocation. And so we are able to spread those funds between the 9 schools and not just the 6. So we are still working on this, and we are learning, and we are continuing to learn. If this changes, we'll let you know, but we felt we had to get some budget information to our principals so that they could have these discussions. And we think, we've talked to several districts, we think this is permissible, and it's an example of our hybrid plan for charters in our district.
Follow up to Mr. Bartle. So I just need clarification. Because when we passed the charters, we were told that the additional funds for each new student would have to stay with that school. So now there could be a rule change?
Well, I remember saying something like that, and it was in the spirit of not knowing what I didn't know. As we have researched this, we have found that there is more flexibility than we originally thought. And so we're proposing that we take advantage of that flexibility. And so
it can't be used for staff? I thought that it could be.
It can be, yes. We will take in a total of probably around $4 million. This is 1/4 of that, or a little less than 1/4. And so that staffing decision, that will continue to be a district responsibility. So I could see definitely earmarking funds for additional staff and allocating them appropriately across the district as needed. Yeah, there are going to be a lot more budget decisions that are going to have to be made with the remainder of the charter funding.
So you're getting our hopes up, and then
There's going to be a lot more work to do and a lot more decisions to make, but we had to get started so that principals would have a ballpark anyway of what they could afford.
So this roughly 25% is earmarked for these purposes?
Yes. Okay. That's what ultimately we will roll that into the budget for 14-15 for your approval, but we have to get planning for that now if it's going to make sense.
Is administration making this commitment to the principals on a per student allocation like is proposed, or are you holding a couple trump cards just in case, depending on how the academic focus shakes out for each school? I can see where one academic focus could have higher needs for additional resources than another. So we want to make sure we have the ability to move some of those dollars to best allocate as a district, right?
That's a fascinating question. You sound a little bit like a principal, and principals are very good about asking for more funding than you allocate. We are planning to stick to this budget at this point in time, but we're new to this, and we're going to have to figure this out as we go along. I think it's reasonable to give principals a budget target and say, you've got to come up with a plan that fits a budget. we will have, as I mentioned, additional district funds we'll have to make some decisions about. So I guess that's the way I'd answer it for today.
Whether it's this fund or elsewhere, maybe consider having a contingency that you have the ability to play with, if you will, as needed basis. So
I think that's something we can consider, certainly, yeah.
I do like the per student, that it's based on student population.
Yes. Now, if you were principal of a small elementary school, you would say, we need $100,000 per site. That's what you would logically say. But, you know, I think per pupil makes the most sense. And, you know, high school programs tend to be more complex and expensive. I mean, just the textbooks alone generally are thicker and more expensive. And so I think there's some rationale that supports it.
So we'll get more information. Sorry, Mr. Bartle, go ahead.
I just want to say, but even at the elementary school level, if one school's emphasis was technology, for example, that I can see where that would have higher cost structure required than, say, an arts focus.
Yeah, I agree. One of the things we've talked about with the principals, though, is that it's possible they're going to have to make a 5-year plan on how to phase in what they want to do. And they may not be able to have everything that they want in year one. And technology is a perfect example of that because that tends to be expensive. But there's also a district responsibility for technology, as there has always been and will continue to be. And so, for example, once the Auction grant is approved, one of the things that we've designated in there is about $600,000 for wireless, which is a huge part, important part of the infrastructure that would help a school that wanted to have a technology emphasis, for example. So I do think there's several moving parts that I think will work together.
So we'll get more information as this progresses.
You will be getting tons more information on this for
And
the
we
rest
haven't
of the year.
heard anything from, I know there's some legislation coming down to try to change the charter school rules, so I just,
Right.
I don't want to get too excited.
Exactly, yes.
wanna
I mean,
contain my
there
excitement.
could be some changes in the law that may change these numbers. But as of today, unless they change the law,
Okay.
these are what we're estimating the numbers will be.
It's nice to see.
It's very exciting, yeah.
Yeah.
It's a wonderful project. I'm very excited about it. I wanted to bring you up today, too, on a couple of grants that we're applying for. They're pretty exciting, and the only problem with applying for federal grants is that they're highly competitive, and my experience with them has been that it takes 2 or 3 years, 2 or 3 different applications before you get it, because you learn something each time. But, you know, sometimes you get lucky the very first time, not very often. But we have applied for an Investing in Innovation called an I-3 federal grant. It was submitted on August 16th. And if it is awarded, it would begin in January and would be about a 4-year project. Estimated funding would be $3 million. It would serve K-12, and the proposal would be to expand the use of personalized learning technology to assist students with Common Core-based instructional lessons and enrichment activities. And that's the one-sentence version. There's about a 10-page version that I could show you, but we'll find out in December. We have an amazing friend named Howard Zolte, who you probably know about. He's the guy who, I think during the day, he's a computer programmer, but in his spare time, he is the person that helped us get the talking teddy bears at Santa Rosa and do some cool technology things. He helps us locate free computers and that kind of thing. And for fun, he likes to write grants. So he has been helping us with this, and he's pretty much very knowledgeable on this topic. So we're hoping that if not this year, next year, we're going to be able to land one of these large federal grants, which brings me to the next slide, which is a really large federal grant. And this is the Race to the Top federal grant. It is much larger, and that's not a typo. If funded, it could be $20 to $30 million over a 4-year period. And it looks like when we submit this, it will be for grades K through 8, and this is not official. I was hoping by 6 o'clock this evening this was going to be official. We met with Casa Grande Elementary District today and asked them to be our grant partner, and they promised to get us an answer. And so this is tentative. We're hoping that they do join our partnership. We are strongly considering if they don't want to join as a partner in this application, that we would submit it on our own, and then the maximum amount would be $10 million, which is still a lot of money over 4 years. Our proposal would be to create a personalized learning environment that uses collaborative database strategies and 21st century tools such as online learning platforms, computers, and mobile devices to deliver instruction and supports tailored to the needs and goals of each student with the aim of enabling all students to graduate college and career ready. And this one is like probably a 100-page application. So we're kind of in the middle of it. It's due on October 3rd, so it's coming up. This could be a really cool thing, and it may take a few years before we get it, but you got to start somewhere, and these federal grants are not unattainable, and I've worked in districts where we've been able to receive one, and they're can be very helpful if they're appropriate to what we want to do, and we think both of these are. So hopefully I'll be coming with good news on those someday soon. And then I just wanted to mention this is a work study topic to review our governing board goals, and I just have a slide on that to remind myself to pull that back up when we get to that point in the agenda. And that's, I didn't want to have 2 PowerPoints also. And that's all I have.
Thank you. That brings us to our governing board member reports. So this time is for governing board members to share if you've been out in the community, meetings you've attended, since this is the only time we can really talk as a group, is during when we're sitting up here. So it's nice to know where you've been, what you've been seeing. It's just good information to have. So this is our time to share and do that. So I know Mrs. Coutre is chomping at the bit, so.
Thank you. Thank you, President Anderson. As you know, I attended the delegate assembly last Saturday for the ASBA legislative, their political agenda, and pretty much everything remained the same as what we received in the proposed political agenda, except for one change, which I myself was extremely excited for, because I had thought this should have been on the session specific instead of short-term focus. But they did, the delegate assembly did vote to move to fund the implementation costs of Arizona's new standards, assessments, and technology from the short-term focus, which is 3 to 5 years out, to a session specific. Now that doesn't necessarily mean that there's actually legislation written for this, but they will pursue it in this session. So even though that they have these goals on this session specific, doesn't necessarily mean that these are going to come to fruition. That's what this political agenda is basically giving the marching orders to ASBA on what the school boards are looking for. So that's where that ended up. I did also attend the law conference from ASBA. This was my first time attending the conference, and it was perhaps one of the best conferences I have attended yet. I learned so much and reaffirmed that we are doing everything right in this district. And our board is very professional and respectful, and that we are just spot on. And so I just wanted to commend and thank you guys, because I've heard from so many other districts, and a lot of people wanting to get information from us, what we're doing, how's it working, because we're actually leading, and some of the, obviously with changing 6 of our schools to charter schools, there's a district south of Tucson that has the similar makeup of our community, the challenges that we have, and they're going, well, what can we do? What did you guys do? And so they're probably going to be contacting Dr. Chestnut in the near future to ask questions on what, how we planned on changing this and what we've done so far to improve our district. So that was really exciting. And I did attend, and I'm sorry Sydney isn't here, I did attend the meeting at the high school regarding homecoming. This year it's going to be really exciting because they're really going to focus on getting the entire community involved, from all the different schools to the businesses, and it's going to be a lot of fun. This is just going to be the start of what Ram Pride is going to evolve into in the future years. So that's what I've been up to.
She has all that nice, wonderful information you send, talked about.
I have a quick report. I did attend the Arizona School Board Association Board of Directors meeting as I sit on that board for the state. It's nice to be able to represent MUSD and get the word out as to how successful we have and how far we've come. So again, it's very nice to be able to share all the positives and to have the other school districts asking. So that was a late meeting till Friday night, and then Saturday was the delegate assembly, and I serve on the legislative committee, which was another fabulous experience to see all these school districts from across the state. We did end up having 118 delegates, which means it was 118 school districts represented, which is pretty amazing. So it was very impressive. It was great to see people coming together and figuring out what we need to do for public education. So the next thing is on September 24th. If you will please mark your calendars. We are hosting the Pinal County School Board Association workshop. And so at 3 o'clock, they're doing some administrative stuff, but at 5 o'clock is the opening, and then 5:30 is dinner. You can register for that. You can get the information from Mrs. Hahn at the district office. It's a good opportunity, but it's going to be all the school districts from Pinal County. And when I spoke to ASBA yesterday, there was about 50 or 60 people that had already registered. So it's, and I'm hoping to get some of our state representatives here. We're working on that. So that's my, my to-do list that's been going on. It's been a very, very busy month already. I'm already looking at December. So anything else? That's it? Okay, then we will move on. Information items work study. Dr. Chestnut and Mr. Beckett.
Thank you, President Anderson, members of the Governing Board, Dr. Chestnut. I have the privilege tonight of explaining to you Proposition 301 in 8 fun slides here. So just to once again reemphasize just what I kind of alluded to, this is a very complicated plan, and I'll try to do my best to make it as simple as possible. If you have questions, please don't hesitate to interrupt me during my presentation. But there will be things here, I'll be honest with you, that I will probably not have answers to. Much of the work is done at the site level for the actual plans, for the site goals. Business does the accountability piece in terms of finances, so we have people here that I think can come up with those answers. So if I can't come up with a good one, somebody else will. Just a brief history of the Proposition 301. This was a publicly voted on initiative back in 2000. Just want to point out a couple of things from this particular slide. First, the sales tax is what this particular fund is based off of, and it fluctuates yearly. So as the economy goes in Arizona, so goes the allocation to our school sites. And we've obviously taken a beating in the last few years, and we're just starting to come back out of that, so our allocation has actually increased. So it's good news this year on our 301 allocation, and we're hoping again that continues. As you can see, though, the 3 primary points, though, that were in that initiative were to increase teacher salaries, increase accountability, and then finally to reward high-performing teachers. The allocation is actually given to the district in 3 separate, they refer to it as buckets. And Fund 11, Fund 12, and Fund 13. Each of those are percentages given to specific portions of our budget and to address certain things. The particular fund that I'm going to be addressing tonight in more detail, obviously, is performance pay, which is that second Fund 12, which actually is, again, what I'll be addressing, but it's what the school districts, school sites actually have their teachers work through during the course of the year. The base salary, obviously, is something that we put together for our teachers on the base salary schedules. Those were recently approved for this school year. And then finally, Fund 13 funds a number of different initiatives. And my next slide, I'll go into detail exactly how we allocate those different pots of money. Any questions on that slide? Very good. As I was stating, the base salary for that Fund 11, typically the salary schedule receives the bulk of that money. This year, we were able to increase our salaries to those people who qualify for 301s by 1.5%, which is, was an outstanding opportunity for us to increase pay. The performance pay piece, it's a second. Just to, once again, highlight some of the things there. This is a teacher-approved plan. The actual statute states that 70% of the teachers need to approve this plan, and then it's presented to the governing board for your approval. We do ask the sites to accumulate the documentation for that, and it's forwarded on to business department. Payroll then scrutinizes that. There's an appeal process if there are any concerns that typically go through on a committee. And then, obviously, I'm also involved in that process as well. And then finally, the other, that Fund 13 has historically been for classroom site reduction, meaning we buy teachers with that pool of money. Yes, sir.
On the performance pay element, is that a requirement that it's a district-wide program, or could it be a site-specific program approved by the district?
Yes, it can be. It can be site-specific, and as I show you a little bit about the performance pay section of that, one of the things that we did a few years ago was go to a district plan because we were approving 9 different 301 plans at one point in time. And so the thought was, let's get a single district plan put together, allow some autonomy with with the site-based goals that we'll be talking about in just a second. But yes, there's a possibility they could be 9 separate plans if we opted for that. And with our moving to charters, that may be something we will have to consider if the dynamics change in a specific school site. Out of that center section, the performance pay, I'm trying not to get too many percentages here thrown at you, but this refers to the 40% that we get for teacher pay for performance. Out of that teacher 40%, we then have 3 separate categories that we divide that money into. 50% of the money is earned through a professional investment options, and that's a list of 40 different menu items, anywhere from coming to a board meeting to hosting a website for your class, going to PTO meetings, being able to have 0 absences throughout the course of the year. All of these are menu items that individual teachers can earn, and the whole idea is to earn 10 points. If they earn a full 10 points, they would get 50% of that allocation through that process. And again, you can see the 6 different categories that are involved in that. The second part of that is the site level goal. Each school and each grade level and department set up a goal for their attainment. If they attain the full goal, they would receive 40%, that full 40% of that allocation. And once again, if they do not meet that, then obviously the percentage of money that they will receive for that portion of it would be different. The final 10%, we actually conduct 2 different surveys through the course of the year, a student and a parent satisfaction survey. And then finally, 10% is that last 2%, is devoted toward 90% average daily membership at that school site. So once again, that's a full 100%, 50% professional development office, 40% for the site-based goal, and then finally for the surveys and attendance is the last 10%. I had an opportunity to meet with a group of teachers this past Wednesday. We were planning to meet again next Wednesday to discuss this even further, but I'd asked 2 questions from the staff members. The first one, are there any areas of the current plan you'd like to be changed or amended? And then finally, second, does the plan contain a significant level of rigor to justify the performance pay? Had an interesting discussion. I think there were some interesting things said. I think the primary thing that I pulled from that is we need to meet more. And so we'll be continuing this discussion. One of the things, obviously, that will come back to you eventually is that plan, that draft plan. My intent is to have something prepared for you, hopefully in October. That's my plan for the second meeting in October, that you would have that plan in front of you so that you could review. If there were concerns that we needed to take it back to committee at that point in time, I would hope we'd have the time, once again, to revisit those things and still meet our submission date of December 31st to the state.
Mr. Beckett, quick question.
Yes.
So will those plans, because it sounds kind of like it might want to be aligned with what that specific school's academic focus is that, I mean, could that adjust how they earn that? Is that making sense?
It is, and I believe that that could be a consideration. Again, the site level goal is really something that this committee, the 301 committee, has not really dealt with. We've really let that be a site-based decision by grade level or by department, but I'm certainly thinking that's realistic. That could be a
Because they
consideration.
won't have those plans done until 2014.
Correct.
So could that affect this, or is this,
It probably will not affect this year's plan, but it could affect future plans.
Mr. Beckett, in that committee that meets,
Is every school represented?
We have asked for volunteers from the entire district. I have, I think, 16 people at this point in time that have expressed an interest. It is not equity, I mean, it's not been equally divided among each of the school sites. So once again, we're still working on membership,
Okay.
but yes, we're hoping to get representation from each school site and would encourage it.
Okay, thank you.
And just for clarification for the board, per Mr. Beckett, a discussion I had with him earlier, that the committee does feel that the current plan does contain a significant level of rigor to justify the performance pay. So, for context.
And I can concur with that. Again, I was meeting with a small group of staff members, but there was a sentiment among that group that they felt like the things they were being asked to justify for that particular portion of the plan were enough. Dr. Chester?
Maybe just to jump in there, I know that you told Mr. Beckett that one reason they said that is because of the requirements for beyond textbook, Common Core standards, and those kinds of things, raising the bar academically for our students, which obviously is a challenge for teachers as well.
Absolutely. And I know just the implementation of Common Core, beyond textbooks, which is a new initiative. A lot of these are training elements that our teachers are being asked to, go into a great deal of training beyond their days. And so it is going to be a challenge. I'm assuming that some of the additional things that are going to be added to that menu options are going to be related to some of those training areas. Just wanted to finally give you a website. Obviously, Arizona School Board Association has a wonderful fact sheet on Proposition 301. It goes into a greater detail if you want more information. There it is. Do you have any questions?
no questions, but we'll be hosting another Common Core workshop in Casa Grande at Casa Grande Elementary School in October. So that's also open to go out and talk about the Common Core. So I'll give you more information on that too.
Perfect, thank you. Thank you very much.
So fast, my friend.
You almost got away.
You didn't think after all these weeks of pushing to have this on the agenda that I'd let you off that easy. I want to have an opportunity to express to the board and also primarily to express to Mr. Beckett to relay to the committee my thoughts on this subject. I think this is a golden opportunity for our district as it relates to having access to these funds. Given our needs and our emphasis on recruiting and retaining the best teachers. And as we've done it historically and as it appears to be the direction moving forward, we fall flat on our face and absolutely do not take advantage of this opportunity. We have hundreds of thousands of dollars at our disposal to change behavior, create incentive, get a different result from what we're getting. And we've been using it as more or less just an entitlement. Let's give everybody a 1.5% pay raise. Last year, 100% of our employees earned performance pay bonus. 88% of them got the maximum, which is about $2,000. And the other 12% got somewhere between 40 and 95%. So in my eyes, by definition, we are supporting mediocrity in this regard. We are not, this is not having an effect that we could have with our goal of recruiting and retaining the best teachers. So if we continue down this path, there's at least one person who won't support that. I think that the committee ought to take advantage of this opportunity and to really figure out how we can best identify, how we define who our best teachers are and reward those folks. If we take, like I said, $2,000 per teacher was last year's number. So doing some hopefully simple math, but if I got this wrong, then it's not so simple, it's very complicated. But if we really focused on just the top third of our teachers, that's a $6,000 increase for those folks. If we focus on the top 20%, that's a $10,000 increase in their pay. If we want to figure out how to reward our top 10% of our teachers, $20,000 potentially could be added to their paychecks. So to me, that is incentive. That is recruiting the best teachers in the region to come work for Maricopa Unified School District and having an impact. Our average teacher salary is $38,000. If we went with the top 20% model, it's a 26% increase in their salary. And that's meaningful. And I think that changes behavior, that gets people excited, and will provide a good result for us and not just be a handout. So that's my soapbox for the moment on that. I appreciate Mr. Beckett forwarding those sentiments to the committee and in hopes that they consider looking at this from a different paradigm. I do like the idea of if we can't come to consensus on how we define who that top tier teacher is at a district level, empower the school sites to do that. I think that the more that we can let our individual school sites take ownership of how they do business and how they reward their top folks, I think the better off. And then just as another note on the timing of it, and maybe part of this process is we do this on a 2-year cycle instead of every year, because we're approving this. The deadline is when, December 31st? Yes. So half the year's over, right? So how many folks are changing their behavior on the first semester when they don't even know what it is, right? So if we did this maybe on a longer term, again, I think we can maximize our impact and best utilize these dollars. So, thank you.
Mr. Beckett, I trust you to take care of whatever needs to be taken care of. I know that our teachers work extremely hard, so I was a teacher once, so I get it.
And nobody, as we've talked about ad nauseum, nobody here doesn't want to give every teacher an increase in pay. But I think that the mindset has to change and that every dollar doesn't get distributed equally to all 300 of our teachers. But this is performance pay. Let's reward the best, and hopefully we can recruit and retain the best. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Beckett.
Thank you.
Dr. Roden? Welcome. It's been a while.
Good evening. My name is Krista Roden. I am the Director of Teaching and Learning, and since this is my first presentation for the year, I would like to take a second just to share with you my team that make all curriculum, assessment, and instruction possible at Maricopa Unified. We have a new director.
Excuse me, Dr. Roden, can you speak into the microphone? I know out there in TV land they can't hear.
Sure. We have a new Director of Curriculum and Instruction, which is Wade Watson. Our Director of Assessment and CTE is Rick Nielsen. Administrative Assistant that does all is Kathy Graham. Heidi Vrattel is our Professional Development Coach. Gretchen Brown is our English Language Learner Coach. Terry Ponticello is our Federal Program Specialist. Tracy Managuera is our Before and After School Coordinator, our COPA Kids Coordinator. Michelle Inskeep is our Curriculum and ELL Specialist. Janine Looper is a Curriculum Para. Evie Moctezuma and Joanna Moctezuma are our student interns that work in the department. And again, this team makes all curriculum, instruction, and assessment and achievement possible. So tonight I'm going to share with you a little bit about what's going on with the Maricopa Unified Curriculum and Continuous Improvement Plan. First, we'll start out with what is an improvement plan? A continuous improvement plan is something that's completed by all schools as well as the district in order to receive Title I, Title II, Title III, and any technology funding. The new requirements for the 13-14 school year are that all of these funding tags with Title I, II, and III have to be identified within the continuous improvement plan itself. So within the goals and strategies, we have to assign funding to each of those components, which is new this year. And why do we have to do this, or why do we use a continuous improvement plan? Because it's a systematic way of measuring achievement through goals and strategies, and it's an alignment of a process for our principals, and it's an alignment that takes place with our strategic plan as well. In August, we started planning with our leadership team and our teachers. We started with a review of ELITE, which is the system that we house our continuous improvement plan in through the Department of Education. We we looked at the new standards and criteria that Arizona Department of Ed has laid out for us. They seem to change every year, so every year we need to update them. We looked at our title expenditures and how we spend our money within our federal grants, and we also did a very comprehensive needs assessment that takes approximately 2 weeks for teachers to complete, as well as certified and classified members. Then we look at the goals that we would like to place based on our needs assessment. We start to build our standards and action steps on how to accomplish those goals. And then next week, or the 18th, I believe, the principals will share their continuous improvement plan with leadership. And then we will submit on to ADE on September 23rd. And then we will be ready to submit our federal grants, Title I, Title II, and Title III. So what are these 6 standards that are in our continuous improvement plan? Again, every year they change, but they still stay basically the same, where we look at goals and achievement for academics, as well as building a culture that thrives at each school district. And you're going to see pieces of these that embed within the strategic plan, so they do overlap, and it was our goal to make those as comprehensive into one plan as we possibly could. So it starts with Standard 1, continuous improvement, and what that is it's committing to a culture of excellence, and it's using our goals and our strategies to align to our needs assessment to make sure that our academics are increasing, and that our community is involved, and that it's a real document that we revisit. And when you walk in, your students know what their goals are, your teachers know what their goals are, your parents and your community members know the goals as well. So building that continuous improvement and that culture of excellence is Standard 1. Standard 2 being LEA leadership. What does that mean? It's, are we working toward the same vision? Again, aligning with the strategic plan of the district. Are we using all of our organizations and our community partners to be involved in this decision as well? Are we looking at a learning environment where students are safe and want to come to school? And again, the new requirement, are we utilizing our funding tags to meet those needs? And our funding tags being the extra resources that we receive through federal government, or for the federal grants. Curriculum and instruction, one of my favorites. We have a big new component that we are working through this year with Beyond Textbooks, so we do have a comprehensive curriculum system in place. We are definitely looking to hire all highly qualified teachers to make sure that the instruction is most effective for our students. We're looking at the effectiveness of evaluation of programs and curricular needs, whether it's supplemental curriculum or core curriculum. And for standard number 4, interventions and additional supplemental services. This is really where the funding tags affect us the most. Through our federal grants, we are able to have our academic or our TI coaches, and those are a big piece of our funding tags. Additional interventions that we are able to provide is our 21st century before and after school programs. We were approved for our Ames grant for the secondary or our high school today. We got our notice today, so that's exciting for us. We'll start tutoring our juniors and seniors that did not pass Ames and for the assessment in October. We also were able to hire some additional Auction tutors for our Saddleback, Butterfield, and MES campus through the Auction grant. We were also able to double up math services for our secondary students that were falling far below or approaching in Ames in math. We have our Move On When Reading interventions that are happening for our third graders, second graders that were falling far below in their DIBELS or their Stanford 10 scores. And we have RTI classes both at the elementary and the secondary level. And another piece of the intervention is timely data. We have a lot of data. If you ask our teachers, they'll probably tell you we have too much data. But one is getting that system in place with Galileo, using our formatives now with Beyond textbooks, and our pre-test, post-test that's aligned to the Arizona Department of Education evaluation pilot. So it's also utilizing those tools and making sure that our interventions are delivered by highly qualified teachers or paras that understand the effectiveness and how to teach children using the data that we have. Standard 5, data assessment and evaluation. Thank goodness for Rick Nielsen on this one. He is the data extractor, data guru by far. We do have a management system in place. We do use ATI or Galileo. We have a process with our professional learning communities that we meet at least once a month to review the data and to look at our RTI groups to make sure they're fluid and that our students are being taught at that academic level that they need to be in order to make the next gain for proficiency. And again, one of the important measures here is that it aligns to the Arizona Department of Education effectiveness framework for evaluation. So we are also working very closely with that. And our sixth and final standard is the community stakeholders. Are we making sure that our parents are involved in the decisions? Are we making sure that our students understand what the expectation is as we move on throughout the school year, and that we're all working together on the same plan? And I think that you're going to see overlaps between the community and the strategic plan and these continuous improvement plans within the schools. So with that, I will leave you with a quote. If you don't know where you are going, you will end up somewhere else. So these plans are very important. I know that the leadership team has worked on them for the last 4 weeks, and they're ready to get them uploaded into Elite and get them on the walls and out into the community. Any questions?
None for me.
None? All right, thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Roden. I know it's a lot of work. It's a lot of paperwork. Whew. All right. Item C, Dr. Chestnut, review governing board goals.
What else we talked about at a recent meeting was to look back at the governing board goals document that was created back in September of 2011. I think just because of a lot of stuff going on last year, we didn't get back to this document last year, so might be time to look at that. We have been doing some of this stuff because for the last 2 years we've adopted board superintendent goals for the year, kind of our priorities we're going to work on as a team. And I have to say that this list looks very similar, actually, to this year's board governing board goals. For example, improving student achievement, number 5 on this list, is the number 1 item on the plan for this year. Same way with engaging stakeholders. We called it community involvement, I believe, on this year's work plan. Very similar. So a lot of similarities there, but the request was to bring this for discussion, so there it is.
All right, I'll go first. In looking at the governing board goals, we just got done having our work sessions, special meeting, talking about the school district goals with the superintendent and the board. But in my mind, governing board goals should be specific to the governing board, things that we can do ourselves, because we really don't have the control over some of these things. The only one that I see that really affects us as a governing board is number 3. The rest of those, in my opinion, are district goals, not governing board goals. So my thought is I would like to see us come together again now that we have a full board and develop governing board goals that are specific to each of us that can strengthen us as a school board. So that my request would be that we have a work session, study session, meeting where we can all get together and talk about what can we do as a governing board. Is it go to conferences? Is it, do we want to make sure we all attend governing board meetings? Simple things, but that's what makes us stronger as a governing board, which then makes the district stronger. So that's my 5 cents worth. Did that make any sense? You're all looking at me like I'm...
To me, and I concur with you. I think we really need to sit down and our goals need to be things that we can actually do. Of course, obviously, all those items listed on there is something that we all want our district to succeed. And I think as a board, that's what the goals that we set with the superintendent, the work plan, actually will achieve. And then our strategic plan, which will again reinforce all of those. So I agree with President Anderson, thinking that we really need to sit down and figure out what we can do, what our goals need to be for the year, and that's what we should be measuring our performance on.
With President Anderson's, can you all hear me out there? I always feel like, you have to practically kiss this thing before it'll, yes, thank you, President Anderson. That was a great observation on number 3. It is, I think we've even talked about this in the governing board when we met with the superintendent about some of these goals. And I think earlier, Scott, you just mentioned about hiring and making sure that we have a highly effective teachers in this district. So some of these things are already touched on in terms of a district matter versus a governing board matter. So maybe we can put that in the schedule in a meeting soon and work together. We're a fairly new board, so we'll have a lot of years together to join and come together and be strong. Yes. Yeah.
As we've illustrated over the last couple of years since this was originally developed, there's more than just putting these things on paper too, right? Mrs. Roden, thank you for the segue. What did Yogi say? If you don't know where you're going, you'll end up someplace else. So we need to make sure that whatever we do, whatever we come up with, that we are holding ourselves accountable and we're addressing it on a regular basis to make sure that there's some meaning behind it.
Absolutely. I agree with, well, we do have our governing board assessment where we assess ourselves as a governing board. So I would like to see that tool be made available when we decide to have our meeting so that we can kind of align that so that we can have some way to assess whether or not we really are effective as a board. Okay. So do we want to just have Lisa send some dates out? Are we talking October? Are we talking November? Are we talking in the next couple weeks?
I think it needs to be done as soon as possible. We're just starting the school year, and I think we really need to.
Mr. Bartle, your thoughts?
We're in meeting mode, so yeah, let's just keep meeting.
Just see you guys every day. How's that? All right. So do we want in the next couple weeks? Okay, because our next board meeting, we have the 24th and 25th nights are taken, so I don't know if there's something next week. or maybe the following week. We'll just have Lisa email some dates out.
That'll be fine.
Will that work, Mr. Bartle?
Yes, I'm not available next week in the evening, but possibly the following week.
So maybe after the 25th board meeting?
That would be October
Yeah.
2nd, that week,
Will that week?
that Wednesday. Does
Do we-
Wednesday work?
Do we need to have a separate meeting, or can we have a work session at our meeting and discuss this?
I would like to have a separate meeting where we sit around a table and just talk about it like we did when we had the board superintendent work plan. I like that format a little more than sitting up here on the dais. So my proposal is a separate, and it doesn't have to be a Wednesday, it can be any night, doesn't matter to me.
Wednesdays are probably the only nights that'll work with me until soccer's done, so. Sorry, guys. Yeah,
Calendar.
it is. It's the first Wednesday of the month.
All right, so Mrs. Hahn, will you send that email out that we can, and if we can check everybody October 2nd and then get back to Lisa on that? Will that work, Mr. Bartle?
That process? Absolutely. October 2nd, stay tuned.
Will that work, Dr. Chestnut?
Yes.
Okay. All right. Good discussion. Thank you. That brings us to item D, discussion of emergency purchase of condenser unit for Santa Rosa Elementary School air conditioner unit. Mr. Roush, is that you or is that Dr. Chestnut? No? This is on, it was,
Ms. Anderson, members of the board, Dr. Chestnut. There are some nuances in Arizona laws, and one is that after an emergency purchase, the board just needs to be notified. And so we had some air conditioning issues that we had to get a contractor and equipment there pretty quick, and before we could issue POs, and there's a process in place, and so we had to go through that process. It's health and safety issues. So you, pardon me?
how long were they without air conditioning?
That particular room, I think for a couple days, had some air conditioning issues. And in Arizona, it's crucial to get out there. And we actually had to have a crane, and schedule a crane to get a compressor up for that particular issue. But yeah, so there are times when we have to do that. So it's just a nuance in the law that you don't have to prove it, you just have to be notified. Yep. And we either notify you before we've notified you in the financial report.
Right.
So, yeah. And so it's the next upcoming meeting. If it doesn't fall on a meeting that the financial report has that information, we'll just give it to you in an information item.
So from now on, whenever you have emergency purchases, you're going to have them on our work session. We have to know about them.
Or the
before.
financial report.
Okay.
It just has to be in the minutes of the school district. It only happens 4 or 5 times a year. The other times, they've been in the financial report.
Right.
So, thank you.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Roush. All right, that brings us to our consent agenda. And remember, 6C was taken out. So, do we have any motions?
Agenda?
Okay, we have a motion. And we have a second. Any discussion?
No.
Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. The consent agenda has been approved. So that brings us to our action items. So let's go to 6C. And Mr. Bartle, you had a question on that.
There are 2 changes I'd like to request.
Okay.
On the work plan item, it's at the top of the last page, top of page 4. that it states that Mr. Bartle suggested on the last bullet of the work plan, change the date from July 18th, 2014 to now. I believe that was to be changed to the 1st of January. And then my second change is the following item in the board operating protocol vote. It states 3-1 with myself opposed, and I abstained from that. I did not oppose it. Background behind that is in whole, I did not want to interfere with it passing, but there was a part of that that I disagree with, so I did not oppose the item. I abstained from it. So I'd like to make a motion that we approve the meeting minutes with those two amendments.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Okay, that brings us to 7A, which is the HR, which is Mr. Beckett. See, we've missed you. We had you come up twice this meeting.
Well, thank you, President Anderson, members of the Governing Board, Dr. Chestnut. I'm Tom Beckett, Director of Human Resources. I failed to give that introduction at the beginning. You have in front of you the personnel schedule tonight, and I will entertain your questions.
Mr. Becker?
Member Coutre.
Could you just explain what a roving custodian does? Please.
The roving custodian is actually, we're using that position to help us in hotspots at our school sites. We have not only various needs that happen at different times, so if we need to have some additional cleaning done at a school site, it'll be nice to have a single person that we could devote toward that. We've also had some issues with Family Medical Leave Act requests. We've had some absences. It just would be a great practice to have somebody available to go and actually go into the school sites. Mr. Roush probably can explain it better than I can, but that was the rationale.
So, with this roving custodian, would that be like, you know, like we rent out facilities in the evenings? And so when the facilities are being rented out, those rooms aren't being cleaned. So does a roving custodian come there and then clean those rooms after they're done then? Is that?
I'm going to defer to Mr. Roush on this one, and hopefully he can explain that.
Kind of for emergency purposes.
Okay.
And that could be one of the emergencies. If we have a couple custodians that are sick and we just can't get a sub, but we do need to have those rooms cleaned. And so we're going to use, they're not specific to a site. And so it just gives us a little bit more flexibility to have somebody who's not just at a site and we can move them around.
And this is a full-time position?
Yes.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Beckett, on the overload stipends, are any of those out of grant money, or is that, because I didn't see any asterisks. I know sometimes it gets left off. Okay.
Yes, Member Anderson, none of those will be coming out of
Okay.
a grant fund source.
Okay.
Did you want me to go ahead and explain you had asked me earlier possibly about explaining the overload stipend?
Yeah, I mean, just since we have a new board member, and for anybody that is tuning in for the first time, why, just the rationale behind the overload stipend and that it is available to all secondary.
Yes.
So,
Thank you.
please.
Each one of our secondary class teachers actually have a preparatory period. They have an opportunity to prepare for the day, also to take tutoring. Other things happen during that point of time. If a teacher is asked to give up that prep time, the district then pays them a $3,000 per semester overload stipend to do that. The rationale behind that typically has been to decrease the number of extra teachers we would have to purchase. So in a 6-period schedule at the high school, if we added another period to that person, or to that person's schedule, that basically allows us to have more kids being covered in class. It's a cost-efficient way for us to meet the needs of our students without necessarily hiring a new staff member.
Do we know what impact that has on teacher productivity and student test scores, and also teacher retention?
And Mr. Bartle, I actually do not know that. Although it'd be an interesting,
It might be something.
absolutely.
Consider, I mean, obviously from a apples to apples, it makes economic sense to do that, but there may be some unintended consequences that may not make it worth our while, so.
I can tell you from an employee interest standpoint, though, we've never had difficulty convincing people to take the stipend. There's always someone who's willing and interested in earning that extra money.
We've also heard through the years of how important that prep time is to teachers.
Correct.
So I know we've got a competing interest pulling at one another with the financial gain as well as the prep time, but.
Right. Even though it may not appear, we've really scrutinized each one of those overloads. Ms. Roden in particular has spent some quality time with the high school staff, administration, making sure that each one of those were justified.
Mr. Beckett, are all these overload stipends at the high school?
And I'm looking through the list right now. I know that we have at least 2 that we're offering to middle schools at this point. I'd have to go through that list, each one of them, but I think the majority of these look like they're all high school, yes.
And this is for this semester?
This semester only, correct.
Thank you.
And these are teachers who volunteered for this.
Teachers
They-
that.
They wanted to do it.
They were asked,
Yes.
yes. Once again, we do this semester by semester so that if in case something changes, we get a larger enrollment, we decrease enrollment, we can either offer this stipend or not, depending upon what our student needs are at that point in time for next semester.
Can I ask you on the resignation, retirement, termination?
Yes.
How soon are we going to adjust that contract assessment amount? Is that something that we don't do? I know you're reevaluating kind of a step, incremental time value. When are you going to do that?
Okay, and Member Anderson, I'm going to just restate the question. You're speaking about number 2 with the contractors?
Yeah, just we had talked about the closer it is to the school year, the more
Correct.
money it's going to cost the teacher.
I believe what we.
Possibly.
Right, what we intended at this point in time to take into consideration was the resignation that comes prior to the beginning of the school, which actually starts impacting the classroom. If it's prior to that and we were able to secure a substitute, we were not going to assess the fee.
Correct.
If it's after the fact, after the school year started and it's actually starting to impact the classroom, we have to provide a substitute. That's whenever the fee assessment will come into play. And so, yes, we are doing that.
But are we going to increase that fee?
At this point,
Here's the question. Can we look at adjusting that? So the closer it is to the school year, that the teacher, after they've signed their contract, it's going to have a huge impact on us when we have teachers that quit the first week of school. That should cost them more than if it was 2 months out. Does that make sense? Can we look at adjusting that?
Absolutely.
Based on?
It is part of our contract language, and so anything that we would do would have to be drafted, obviously, through our attorney and be part of the contract and available for the 14-15 school year. Yes, but that's a possibility.
Can we look at that?
Yes,
Okay.
absolutely.
All right, because it's a huge impact on our classes when teachers, even 2 weeks before school, it's almost impossible to hire teachers that close to the school year, and it's really put us in a bind.
Right. I guess I want to address one thing about that, though. One of the things that makes it, if it's further down the line, we actually have some monies that we can recoup from that teacher. If they quit that first week of school, typically they've not earned enough money at that point in time for us to assess the fee. So now we're asking them to pay out of their own pocket, right, which again becomes a collection issue. But again, it's something that I'm willing to look into. Enforcement always is a challenge, though.
I know, but can we look into it?
Creating good policy, though, right? We want to make it a deterrent. We want to alter behavior. We want to prevent people from making that decision. So, another example of the impact of this issue is we're incurring we are paying a $5,000 incentive or recruitment fee to fill positions that folks have left us, and at best we're going to collect $1,000 for that, right? So. And we talked about this at the last meeting. So at some point, well in advance of finalizing the contract language for next year's contracts, I would love to have that conversation and provide you some more feedback, so.
Please, maybe January-ish or something. I know you don't have enough to do, so just add more to your to-do list. Dr. Chestnut, any thoughts on that? I didn't mean to ignore you.
That's a good plan.
All right, so any other questions for Mr. Beckett on the HR? No? Okay, do we have any motions?
I move to approve the HR schedule.
We have a motion
Second.
and a second. Any discussion? Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you, Mr. Beckett. All right, last item. 7B, discussion and possible approval of the Maricopa Unified School District Strategic Plan. Dr. Chestnut, that's you.
We looked at this at our last meeting, and we decided not to take any action on it at our last meeting because we knew we had a new board member joining us. And mainly for Anna Marie's benefit, I just want to remind you that the format that we adopted includes a vision statement, a mission statement, belief statements, goals, and then the action plans are the last 8 or 10 pages. As I worked with the Strategic Planning Committee, I reminded them at least 100 times that their task was to identify a vision statement, mission statement, belief statements, and goals for the district. In other words, pages 1 through 3. And it was my responsibility, working with Cabinet, to develop the action steps to make those goals a reality. So they definitely got that message because I wouldn't let them forget it. So what we're asking the governing board to approve is the vision, mission, belief statements, and goals, and to choose between really what is being proposed by the Strategic Planning Committee, but it's also possible that we could keep our current vision, mission statement, for example. And so that is the task. Just as a comment, you'll notice that vision and mission are pretty straightforward. You have 2 choices there. For each, the belief statements, the formatting is different. The current version is pretty detailed, and the Strategic Planning Committee felt like they want to go in a kind of different format direction, just to have a shorter list without as much detail. So that is kind of a difference, I guess, between current format and what the committee recommended. And then just to remind you on the goals on page 3, there's 5 of them. Goal number 1 is the continuous improvement plan that Mrs. Roden just outlined. They're required to do by the state. We're wanting to make sure that we align our efforts, that we don't duplicate efforts, that we're focused on that continuous academic improvement. That includes the academic focus discussions at each school and the things that are moving forward this year beyond textbooks and all those other initiatives. So I think we have a streamlined plan. And then goals 2 through 5, I think support that, but are a little different and not part of the continuous improvement plan. So those are my comments, and be glad to answer any questions.
Let me read out loud so that, since we don't have it on the visual, the proposed vision statement is MUSD, an exemplary district. And the proposed mission statement is the mission of the Maricopa Unified School District is to ensure all students achieve excellence by preparing them to be lifelong learners and responsible citizens that value innovation and global diversity. So those are the proposed vision and mission statement that the Planning Committee put forth. I personally like them, so that's my...
I like the proposed mission statements, the belief statements, and obviously the goals. But the vision statements, I still like our current vision statement. That's my opinion.
Okay. Any other comments on the vision statement?
Yes, I concur with Member Coutre. the a vision, an effective vision statement should really make an impact and be inspirational and be something that we can envision for the future. Instead of paraphrasing or stealing, if you'll allow me, I'd like to just read a sentence from Jim Collins, who is a world-renowned management leadership consultant that he wrote in the Harvard Business Review that I think is relevant and might paint the picture as far as what my thought process is. But he says a well-conceived vision consists of two major components: core ideology and envisioned future. Core ideology defines what we stand for and why we exist. It is unchanging and complements the envisioned future. The envisioned future is what we aspire to become, to achieve, to create, something that will require significant change and progress to attain. I envision it as a bit of a rallying cry for us, and I think that pretty much everything that we've talked about, even in Ms. Roden's comments earlier, it all goes back to engaging the community of parents, the community of staff, the community at large. And we've all said numerous times that we can't accomplish our goals without all those folks being a part of our efforts. So I agree with Mrs. Coutre that I like our current vision statement.
To add to that, I respectfully disagree, mainly because we had a committee of community members that came together and rallied around the school district. And I don't want to undermine what the community has asked of us. And when the community brought this forward, I don't, why have them come and meet and go over a strategic plan if we're going to change it? So I would.
It's our job to cast those votes. The community doesn't have those votes. To the same token, President Anderson, we engaged community members to serve on a budget committee, which suggested we close a middle school, and we chose not to do that. So I think we take input from the community, and it's very valuable to us, but it's not the end-all be-all. We're not required to vote based on that.
Okay. Any other thoughts? Yes, Mrs. Knorr.
I've been very quiet. I'm learning a lot. However, I would like to put forward some input on this, just, based on my week of looking at this material and thinking about what I would support. I think that I support the current vision statement. I support the proposed mission statement and belief statements, but in terms of the vision statement, what stands out to me is the current one says student and the proposed says district, and to me it shouldn't be about the district, it should be about the students. So that's why I support the current versus the proposed on the vision statement, but the proposed on the mission and belief statements.
Okay. Good point. That's fine.
When we emphasize unified, there was a reason that we emphasized unified. We wanted to bring everything, all the components together, all the schools, the parents, the businesses, we wanted to tie in the entire community to be a part of the success. And I think that's one of the reasons why we wanted to emphasize unified when we first came up with this.
They're both great vision statements.
They are,
and
I agree.
I agree that the current vision statement is a very more community-oriented, yes, dedicated to student success-oriented, that kind of thing. However, we are constantly talking about exemplary and how, we're trying to be a school and we're trying to be at the top and those kinds of things. I think that's where the committee was thinking along those lines to create that proposed exemplary district vision statement. This is going to be one of those situations where can we combine them? Is there a way to, it may sound, maybe we just need to keep it the way it is, but exemplary has always been one of those buzzwords that we've used a lot as a board and within in the community and in the district to maintain the highest level of achievement in this community and in this district.
I think at this point to combine them, I think they're both
I know.
great.
It sounds, that's just a
like
shot
everybody
in the
would
air.
prefer
Yeah.
The,
And-
what I'm hearing is that we prefer the current vision statement, which is Maricopa Unified, a community dedicated to student success, the proposed mission statement, the proposed belief statement, and remember on page 3 there are the proposed goals, which is what basically helps the administration staff put all the curriculum and plans in place. So, I don't know if you had a chance to look at the goals, if there's any question. I mean, I like the goals. I would like Dr. Chestnut, if you would please, on number 3, can you just explain the rationale that the committee had? Number 3 is provide diversity education and cultural education. Can you just provide the rationale behind that?
I can. I think we had numerous discussions as part of the process that we live in a diverse community. We have a lot of racial and ethnic diversity in our community, and it was very important to the committee to make that an explicit goal. And that was really the background behind that, goal number 3.
So it's not separate curriculum, it's just creating an understanding
I think so. I
for
think
the
it's.
diversity around us?
You can look in the action
Okay.
plan. I think it's on page 8. And I think it's just a matter of looking for curriculum materials in particular that are inclusive, that our students can relate to. One of the things that is in our memorandum of agreement with Ak-Chin, for example, is that we will work on identifying appropriate Native American curriculum materials. So that is listed separately because we've already pretty much committed to doing that. And then the other action step, purchase culturally diverse literature for all grades. It's considered a best practice in English language arts, and I think it's something that we are doing, and it makes it more of an explicit goal that we'll continue to pursue.
Mrs. Nor.
Mrs. Nor?
Yeah, I just want to ask a question about that. It wouldn't be that we would be separating cultures or giving certain cultures certain education. It would just be that we would be celebrating, that we would all be studying about different cultures?
Right. It would be
Okay.
infusing it into our current curriculum materials, yes. Not a big program change. You can see that's a pretty modest list of things we want to accomplish, focus really on curriculum materials and literature for English language arts classes. Mhm.
Recently passed state laws about separating out cultures and those types of
Tucson
curriculum.
Unified has been in the middle of that, and
Yeah.
that's not the proposal at all.
Okay, just want to be sure.
As Dr. Chestnut alluded to, there are 2 SMART goals affiliated with this, both of which are buying materials. It's curriculum based. It's what we're doing currently anyway. I think we ought to get rid of it. I think it waters down the importance of the other 4. We're doing it anyway. There's no question that we're going to continue to do that. I don't think it carries the weight as the importance of the others.
I'm all about fewer words, so.
So you're proposing that we remove that goal number 3?
I am. Mm-hmm.
The second part of the goal is, I think, related, I think Dr. Chestnut just said is related to our grant with Ak-Chin, so I just want to make sure that wouldn't undermine that. Okay.
We just approved it in the annual plan. It was also part of the memorandum of agreement, so we really are committed to doing that. And really, it goes back to our Indian education policy that we just reviewed a meeting or 2 ago. It's really part of our way of doing business, and I do think it is in place. I would have to agree with that. Yes?
So, and I agree with deleting number 3. Any other thoughts on that?
I just wanted to comment that I think adding that goal in there is just creating more diversity or attention to it when we are a unified school district and we support and embrace all, cultures and diversity that way. So to keep it, to have it in there is like we're making sure when we are already doing that. That's who we are. Maricopa Unified School District has always been a culturally diverse community, and it's even more now so, and that's great. I think I totally embrace that and remove it.
So now we only have 4 goals. That should make it easier, right, Dr. Wood? Okay. And then I do have a question. Any other thoughts on that?
No.
Okay. Number 4.
If I can make a comment on the specifics as far as Dr. Chestnut's plan to achieve those goals. Dr. Chestnut, if I may. Yes. For example, on Goal 1 Strategy A, there are 3 goals, all of which involve the schools performing a function, but you are listed as the responsible party, and I would change that to the principals, since they're the ones that ultimately are going to be providing that information to you, as evident by the evidence of effectiveness section. And then,
I'm fine with that.
so,
Yeah,
okay.
that's really, I think, a change that I can make since I'm responsible for that portion of the document. I think that's a point well taken. I was just trying to emphasize the fact that we are coordinating this charter effort from the district, and we're working on it together cooperatively as an administrative team. But I think it may be more clear the way you said it. I'm fine with that.
Good catch. Okay, so on goal number 4, I hate to keep beating a dead horse. Goal number 4 says recruit, train, and retain a diverse, high-quality staff. I have a question on the diverse, because it should just be high-quality staff. So does diverse, my preference would be to delete diverse. They got to be diverse. I mean, it does.
By law.
High job skills and things like that. That wouldn't be, isn't it redundant? Maybe that we just take that diverse out of there. I would agree with that.
So, the theory of the committee that, diversity in our workforce is good. I mean, we want racial ethnic minorities in our workforce, in our classrooms. And to me, that sounded like normal language. I come from a state where affirmative action hiring policies are required. And as I've learned since, that is not a requirement in Arizona. Not that we don't make an emphasis to, we basically just hire the best person, which is the best practice, and that's what we do. So yes, I think removing that word is probably helpful. Yes.
Okay, let's see if we can find more diverse words to this document.
Okay, so we've changed 4 to recruit, train, and retain high-quality staff. Is that okay? Yep. Okay, so 4 goals. So what I'm hearing is the strategic plan, we like it, with the changes of staying with the current vision statement, which is Maricopa Unified, a community dedicated to student success, going with the proposed mission statement, the proposed belief statements, and the proposed goals, which has been changed to 4. Am I clear on that? Is that?
Couple suggestions on the belief statements. Nitpicky stuff, but for the board's consideration.
Are you wordsmithing again?
A little bit, sorry.
Okay.
On the first section, we believe students are the highest priority. I would suggest we change it to students are our highest priority. Personalize that and also make it consistent. We may, in the spirit of Mrs. Anderson getting rid of some words for you, on 3, 4, and 5, I don't think we need are crucial to our success, is essential, is crucial. It goes without saying, given that those are our beliefs. And then on also number 5, I would get rid of the word to, just helping students develop the skills. And number 7, prefer we use the word requires versus involves accountability. Okay, I'm looking at an old version.
Requires accountability.
Great, thank you.
All right, so you're saying number one, you want to change the words to the, replace with our. Okay. And then 3, you want it to be strong partnerships with teachers, support staff, administrators, parents, families, and community, period. Right?
Well, let me go back. Number 2, so we believe, add the word in providing a safe learning environment, period. Number 3, we believe in strong partnerships with teachers, support staff, administrators, parents, families, and community, period. Number 4, we believe in meeting the individual educational needs of each student, period. Make sense?
And taking off essential.
Number 3, though, that doesn't read right. If it's, we believe, strong partnerships with teachers.
Add the word in at the front, at the beginning of
In
the.
the beginning.
Oh, okay, okay. Thank you.
Dr. Chestnut, your thoughts? I mean, it's the few words,
I
I'm
think
fine with
the
that.
clearer the better on this stuff, and I like those changes, I like those suggestions, and
Okay.
I think it does read better with those changes.
Okay. Thank goodness we can always count on Mr. Bartlett to be our wordsmither.
Just
Okay.
a couple more
Oh,
quickies.
see, I thought we were going to,
The next section under, in students, the last bullet under students, the next page.
Well, if we take the belief statements as proposed, then we wouldn't have anything.
yeah, these
under
are.
Oh, I'm sorry, you're right,
yeah,
you're right, right.
Those are all
I'm-
gone. We're down to,
I'm looking at, okay.
They did a great job. I believe the committee did a wonderful job of really
Consolidating those,
streamlining
yes.
all of this stuff. And I know they spent countless hours, and I'm extremely grateful to them for all the work that they put into this. And of course, you, Dr. Chestnut, too.
and it's shorter. I like short words, I mean. Okay, so what do you need from us? Do you need us to approve as with the suggestions that we've had? If you've got all that written down, or do you want to bring it back at the next board meeting for us to approve the final document?
Well, I took pretty good notes. I could read to you what I think you want, and you could pass it tonight if you want.
Are you good with that? I'm good with that.
I'd be glad to read it to you. So I think the proposal is that on vision statement, we go with the current vision statement, which reads Maricopa Unified, all caps, a community dedicated to student success. The mission statement would be the proposed mission statement. The mission of the Maricopa Unified School District is to ensure all students achieve excellence by preparing them to be lifelong learners and responsible citizens that value innovation and global diversity. Belief statements, we'd go with the proposed, which say, we believe, number 1, students are our highest priority. Number 2, in providing a safe learning environment. 3, in strong partnerships with teachers, support staff, administrators, parents, families, and community. 4, in meeting the individual educational needs of each student. 5, in helping students develop the skills they need to achieve their potential. 6, excellence is achieved by maintaining high expectations. And 7, academic success requires accountability. Those would be the belief statements. And then the goals would read, number 1, improve student learning and become an A-rated school district. Number 2, increase and expand innovative learning opportunities. The new number 3 would read, recruit, train, and retain a high-quality staff. And 5, improve instructional technology.
We have a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
Oh. Gotcha. Girls, we have a motion and a second. Leslie,
She always wins.
any last
No, I
discussion? Any discussion? Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. You have your strategic plan. Thank you for the committee and the community that came out and put that together. It was a lot of hours, but I'm very, very confident and excited about the direction. So thank you very much, Dr. Chestnut. Okay, that brings us to item 8. Do we have a motion to adjourn?
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. We are adjourned. It is 7:48. Thank you very much. Appreciate you all being here and sticking it out.